Hey viewers, I've had this bike for years and I want to finally finish it. A couple years ago I was going to do a video overhauling these RockShox Magnesium forks and then discovered that they had been recalled. I contacted RockShox, now owned by SRAM, about the recall and they sent me a new fork. Unfortunately, they don't have forks like this size anymore, and so they sent me a modern fork that won't fit on this bike. But that was really cool of them. So I decided to look for replacements for this fork that would fit on this bike, and in doing that research I found that this bike didn't even originally come with a suspension fork, that originally came with a rigid fork. So I'm going to replace this RockShox with a rigid fork. I found an old fork that I had lying around that I figured would fit. It had been really rough, and so I cleaned it up and stripped the paint, repainted it black because I'm not going to be able to find Celeste paint that would match this, and so I just painted it black, figuring that that would be pretty neutral and fit. And so this is the fork I'm going to install on here, and so that's what I'm going to be doing today. So the first thing I want to do is pull this wheel off, so release the brake there. Get this down, and so that's off. So next thing I want to do is I'm going to cut the cable right here because I'm going to be replacing that cable anyway. And then I need to remove the brakes from the old fork. And so use a 5mm here and remove these bolts. There's one. And there's two. What's kind of interesting to notice is that when they went from the rigid fork to the suspension fork, the cable housing wasn't long enough, so they had to add an extra little extension there so that it would fit on there. So I won't need that. So next I'm going to loosen the stem and remove the handlebars from here. So there's that, and those should come right up like that, and kind of pull them back and out of the way. Now I'm ready to start removing the fork. I'm going to remove this top nut here, and so get the great big crescent wrench on here and get it broken loose. Then there's a keyed washer here, but it looks like the key kind of got rotated around. So I'm going to try to grab it and rotate it so it lines up with the slot. If I can get it. Ah, there we go. So I got the keyed washer off. And so now this should come off. Yep, another keyed washer. Now this is coming off smoothly. Okay, got that off, and so now I have the fork off. So now I want to remove these bearings. There's a little gasket there, a little seal. Pull these off of here, and I'm going to clean these up and pull the bearings out of the top race as well. So now I've placed the bearings in this little stainless steel pan, and I'm going to go ahead and soak them in some mineral spirits to help dissolve that grease and get these cleaned up. So now I want to go ahead and remove this crown race from the old fork, and hopefully it'll fit onto the new fork. So I'm going to walk it off. Let me see here. You can see how the gap is opening up in there as I walk it off. Got it off of there. So now I want to install this on the new fork. So the first thing I'm going to do is I just put a little bit of a light coating of grease around the inside of this race, so it hopefully will slide on a little bit smooth. And then slide it on here like this. Then I have a tool here to set the crown race in there, press it on, and so the crown race is installed on the fork. So I'm going to measure the length of the steerer tube on the old fork, and it is 150 millimeters. And on the new fork, the length is 162 millimeters. So I need to cut a little bit off of this so that this is the same length as the other steerer tube. To cut the steerer, I'm going to use a cutting guide. It says threadless, but it'll work on the threaded just as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp this into a vise to kind of hold it while I saw. Tighten that down. And I'll bring this back here. So now what I can do is I can put the steerer through there. And I'll kind of tighten it down a little bit. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure and get this slot right here where the saw is going to be right at 150 millimeters, or actually just a little bit. And ooh, that's just like perfect. So the cutting is just past the 150 mark. So I'll tighten that down, measure again. Yep, 150 there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a hacksaw to cut this, and this will give me a nice straight cut. And then pull this out. So now I got a nice straight cut there, and I'll measure again just to verify it's at 150 millimeters, and yes, it is. So now I got a nice cut and the stem is the right length. Now one last step after the cut is I'm going to take a metal file and clean up the sharp edges on where the cut was done. Much better. Now I want to clean out the cups. I have some degreaser here, and so I'm going to spray this onto a rag and go out and just wipe these down really well, both the top one and the bottom one. Just get these cleaned up really well. Like that. And I also want to clean the top cup. So again, spray some of this on here and just wipe this thing out. Much better. Okay, I'm ready to start putting this thing back together. So I'm going to put some grease into the upper cup. Just kind of spread it around there, just a thin line around there. I want to put some grease around in the lower cup as well. Like this. And the grease I'm using is marine grease. That's my favorite grease for this kind of thing. Okay, so here's that little seal that I pulled off. And so I'm going to slide this on here. And you want to pay attention when you pull it apart just to see how everything went. And so, you know, or just figure out which way fits and which way doesn't. So the bearing will go here with the balls down, because it'll fit that way. Like if you have with the balls up and you have the cage will go against there and it's not going to work. So it'll be pretty obvious how the thing should go. So with this down like this, and so I'm going to slide this up like this and make sure it turns smoothly like this. And the same thing with the bearings here. So the bearings will go here like this. And then I've got this little top cup, and I'll start screwing this on and get this down against the bearings. So you want this kind of down against the bearings, but you don't want it to bind when you're turning. You want it to turn nice and smoothly. And you don't want a lot of play in there either as well. And this is pretty good. Now when this came apart, there were two keyed washers in there. One was a little bit fatter and one was thinner. But I'm going to be replacing one of those with a cable hanger, which I need for the brakes. Now the thickness of this is somewhere between the two. It's fatter than the thin one and thinner than the fat one. So I have to figure out which one to replace it with. So I'll put that on there. I think I'm going to try keeping the fat one there and make sure that there's enough threads there. Actually, it doesn't look like there's enough threads. So I'm going to put the thin one back on and see how that works. And so, yeah, there's more threads there. So I'm going to put this on there and see how this goes. Yeah, I think there'll be enough threads there. So now I'll tighten these on and see how that works. Now I need to tighten this down, but I need to have this adjusted. So I'm going to be using a cone wrench that will fit onto the little cone there. And what I want to do is I want to have nice smooth movement without play. And right now I can feel that there's a little bit of play in there. So I'm going to use this to just tighten down the cone a little bit. Feel there's just a hair of play back in there. And so I'm not feeling the play. It turns pretty smoothly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the cone there, and then I'm going to tighten this top one, but I'm not going to get it too tight yet. So kind of tighten this down and then feel it's binding a little bit. So what I want to do is loosen this, and then I'm going to loosen the cone, and then now I'll tighten the top thing and then feel it again. It's still a little tight. So what I'm going to do is loosen this some more, and I'm going to tighten the cone, or loosen the cone a little bit, and then tighten this in. Okay, so it's turning smoothly and it's not binding. So now kind of tighten these into each other and test it again. Smooth, no play, and tighten it just a little bit more to where it's going to be the final. There. And smooth, no play. So that's where it should be. So it's just fine tuning this thing, and that's what you want to do. So now I'm ready to reinstall the brakes, and they go on. They're pretty simple, but there's a pin here, and there's 3 holes there. It'll go into one of those holes. So depending on which hole it goes into will adjust the tension on how hard you have to pull. So I'm going to start off by putting it into the middle hole, because I can always change that later and give it more tension. So there's tension there. And just put this screw in. And go with the other brake here. Okay, so I'm ready to reinstall the handlebars. Before I do, I want to go ahead and put like a thin coating of grease on these to help prevent corrosion and keeping them from getting seized in there. And so now, put this up here and get this lined up here. And it doesn't need to be perfect at this point because I'm going to be readjusting them later after I get everything hooked up. And so just kind of get close. And then just kind of tighten them in firmly, but not all the way. And remount the wheel. Like that. So now I want to start replacing the brake cable, and so I'm going to pull this housing off there. So you see the little extension that they added because of the replaced fork. And so let me see, I want to get this out of here. Line these slots up and get the cable out of here. And then I got a brand new brake cable here, so I'll slide this in here, slide this through here, get that in place. And then I'm going to replace this little bit of cable housing here. I have black brake cable housing on the other side, so I'm going to do black brake cable housing on this. And so I'm going to cut a piece the same length that was on there, like this. And snip this here, like that. And then clean up the end here. That's nice, that's nice. Then I'm going to use an awl to open up the lining inside the brake housing there. And then just verify that the cable goes through. And it goes through nice and smoothly. Then I want to add ferrules to the ends of the cable housing here on both ends. Like that. And then run that cable through the housing. And then I'm going to run the cable down through this cable stop here. Get that end of the housing there and get this end of the housing there. And so now I have that cable in place to there. So next I'm going to need to adjust the brake pads so that they line up with the rim. So use a hex wrench here, adjust them to hit the rim, and then tighten it here, and then I got to do the other one. Let's see, get this one just a little bit better. That looks good. And then do the other one. See, yeah, they're completely off. Okay, adjust this, loosen it, and get it to meet up with the rim. There. That one looks good. So now I want to replace this straddle cable because it's looking pretty ugly. So let me see, cut this end off with the little cramp on there, and then loosen this Just get this loosened a little bit to where I can slide the cable out. Like this. And then I want to cut the new cable to the same length as the old one. Just a little bit longer here. And then I want to slide it down and have it sticking out at the same distance out. So let me see, go here. Right there, I think is where the other one was. And so tighten this into place. There. And I want to put a little crimp end onto the end of the cable here, so I'll put that on and then use these to crimp it. Got that. So now I'm ready to hook up the main brake cable to the straddle cable, so I'll get the straddle cable connected between the two brakes. I've got this little part here that clamps or goes on there, and then the cable will go down through a slot in this. Kind of help this get past there. Okay, got that. So push this through like this. Now lift this up. Push this through. Kind of tighten this down a little bit. And then test the brakes. No, I want a little bit looser than this. So let just a little bit of cable out. And tighten it again, test it. That seems to work pretty well. So I'll get a 10mm wrench back there and tighten this over here. Now trim this cable here and get a crimp end on. Like that. So now I want to straighten the handlebars. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen this, kind of just straighten them, and then tighten this. Okay, got that. And I am done. I think this black fork looks great on this bike. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. There's still a lot of cleanup to do, replace some cables and stuff, but I think it's going to be a cool bike. Anyway, hopefully you found this video useful or interesting. If you did, please give my video a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel, click that subscribe button and be sure to click the bell so you get notified when new videos come out. I'm over on Facebook, RJ the Bike Guy. Go over there, like that page. I post stuff over there sometimes. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching.